I think you should hear this.
Hard to do an intro, I just realized, over the computer. But anyway, thanks, Matt Haines, for jumping on this call with me to record an episode of I Think You Should Hear This. Really appreciate it. We're at not polar, but opposite ends of the country at the moment. So you're in Tassie. So thanks for joining me despite working in the time zones.
That's
Keen
right,
to finally have this conversation. We've been trying to do it for a long time. So now we get to.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. This is probably the first opportunity I've had in, at least the last 6 or 7 months with Arlo coming into the world. But I never would have thought I would have been in Tassie, and really massive click moment there where you're on the other end of the country, which is pretty cool that we get to do this. So thanks for having me on.
Yeah, you're right. As I was saying it, I was like, oh, that's fucking wild. When we met in January 2023, obviously we spoke about how we knew each other through footy. I definitely wouldn't think we would be here nearly 2 years later, other ends of the country, one of us with a kid, one of us working at a bank.
Yeah.
Doing completely different stuff to what we were doing then, but also, people would be surprised, but also you could see that we were setting ourselves up for an upward trajectory when we, from where we were. So
I think there's something really epic about that, no one would expect it, but it ended up like this anyway. And how awesome that we have the ability to change the trajectories of our lives in that sense. Essentially, going wherever we want to, or wherever we need to, or wherever we're meant to be.
For sure. And that's, the whole point of this podcast is through the last couple of years of meeting all these amazing people at different communities, you hear about their story and the way that they chose to change the trajectory of their lives rather than falling victim to their experiences. And you're a great example of that. And super grateful to be able to share part of it, and very excited for people to hear about the whole of it. At least I have the sound, but let's do a quick recap of the intro, because this always happens to me. I always have technical issues, but fuck Bill Gates. I don't know. Every time, man. But anyway, Matt, thanks for coming on. We met a couple of years ago at a community called Southside Spiritual, did breath work, talked to lots of people. We had very similar lives, but also very different. But we were both into partying and played footy, happened to be against each other. And we initially bonded over that, but then obviously got so much greater, continued to build a friendship through there, and through that built other things like Men Over Matter, Common Unity. And now we're able to have this conversation from opposite ends of the country. You're in Tassie for work at the moment, and I'm living in Darwin playing footy. Who would have thought we'd be here? When I met you, you were recently single, and now you're about to get married and have a kid. Absolutely crazy stuff when you look at it that way.
When you put it like that, it does sound wild.
But I essentially, for the people, that's a great guy doing great things in society. People very often can fall victim to this situation and circumstances they have growing up. And some people choose to create their own journey and decide to use it as an opportunity to learn and become a better person, and to not be the people that they witnessed as a younger age. And I think, Matt, now, especially having a young man yourself, you've learned all the things, what to do and what not to do. And Arlo's in great hands with you now, based on all the experiences you've had, and you wouldn't be the person you are without those experiences. So without further ado, Matt, thanks for joining me. I can't wait to hear about your story.
Thank you for having me, dude. Awesome to be able to do this from opposite sides of the country. I know we've been trying to get it to happen for a little while now, and obviously we've both had a lot of moving parts, but I really appreciate you having me on.
Thanks, bro. So try to wrap it up, the intro, pretty quick, but essentially one morning walked down to a beach and watched some people that started spinning, and I was like, don't you dare.
Yeah, so
I was looking for something more in my life, and yeah, go down to a beach, meet some people, do some breath work. Saw you that day. Turns out we were playing footy against each other not too long later that year, and yeah, hit it off from there. So the community we were at was basically around being vulnerable, sharing your shit with people, and learning how to breathe through it. And that had a profound impact on both of us. You took it a step further and went and did a breathless training course with Johannes Egberts in the Blue Mountains. So clearly for you, it had a massive impact, so much so that you wanted to invest in it.
Mm.
I'd love to hear about your story and all the moments that led up to you joining a community and things that put you on your self-development journey.
Where do I start? Um, I guess the easiest way to go off how I got myself in that position was kind of being stuck in repeating cycles, childhood trauma and childhood experiences with various family members made it difficult for me to discover who I was. Having experienced things like sexual abuse from a neighbor, seeing unhealthy males in my life, going about my brothers, who were drug addicts. My stepdad at the time cheated on my mum. So I didn't really have a very good understanding of what a man is supposed to be and how he's meant to show up in the world. And that just directly correlated with my experiences that I ended up creating as an adult. My mum is one of the most beautiful, strongest people in the world, and anyone who would hear her story would be like, how the fuck is this woman even still alive? Like, how are you breathing in front of me right now? And I wouldn't be who I am if it wasn't for her either. So she's played a massive part in both my growth, how I show up in the world, the empathy that I have for people. She's such a kind and caring person. She's not without her own trauma as well. So I guess quickest and easiest way to put it is that having the experiences that I did when I was younger and having the male role models that I did, I found it easy to slip into drug abuse, was the liar, the cheater, just not in a very good headspace a lot of the time, smoked weed for a really long time, and quite large amounts of it, was 10 years into a party. I want to say a party scene, but it was 10 years of just partying for a lot of it, and obviously still playing footy throughout that. Footy was and always has been a big part of my life. Kind of helped me keep on the straight and narrow whilst, still partying with those boys too. But yeah, that fateful day 2 years ago, I had split up with my then partner, who was a massive learning experience for me. We should say the same. Taught us both a lot. And yeah, I think like that was probably one of the shifts that I needed to become the person I am. I still wasn't quite there yet. Still very unsure of how to take the next step. Going to that community was the kickstart that I needed to really push myself into the next part of my journey, which was really starting to own my shit. And when I talk about that relationship being a mirror, she really called me out on my shit. And I think towards the end, I really started to call her out on hers too, because it wasn't just about how I was showing up in the relationship. It was how she was showing up too, and whether that was a reflection of how she felt she was being treated, the goings on, like I was still bad habit of lying, not quite fully feeling like I could express myself and express my truth through fear of judgment and, probably fear of judgment of my own. And I look back on that relationship now and how I show up in the world, and towards the end of it, how we were both showing up in that relationship and it wasn't healthy for either of us. But being able to look back on it and just think about how that was a learning experience for me. And I really feel like that was letting go of that was like, it was just a huge platform for me to jump off. As sad as it was, yeah, I felt like I just catapulted into who I am now, and I feel like top dog, to be honest. Like I feel like such a good person. I feel like I beginning and am in a position now where I am who I was always meant to be. So it's been a huge shift into getting out of that relationship and then into months of sobriety, and it was actually 2 years of sobriety, but the
Sorry to interrupt. For those listening to this podcast, please just understand that we have some serious internet issues being on the opposite sides of the country and Wi-Fi. And I live in a concrete bunker, basically, so it's so damn hot. So we dropped out a couple of times, and here is one of them. Apologies in advance.
that's okay.
Yeah. I do have questions based on what you were saying, like the learnings and stuff from relationships. Yeah, I made a comment on one of Charles Miss's posts the other day about like men in the healing space, and he was talking about, it's not just men. Like, women are always asking, "Where's the men? Why are there no men?" But when a man walks into a female dominated space, I feel like when you're talking to a spiritual woman or like a woman who is so enthusiastic about the healing and the work because it's helped them so much, there can be parts of ego wrapped up in that. And it's helped them so much and they're super passionate and this is going to kill me. Anyway, my question was, I don't know if it's a question or it's a statement, but I feel like, women are so keen to help and push on men, but they kind of just like putting you down as well by like pointing out all your flaws. And it's just them like, look, I've done all this work. Like I can notice all your faults instead of like
Mm,
actually helping. They're like,
mm,
you're mirroring this to me and like you're doing this and you're doing that. But really it's their own like spiritual bypassing. Not that I'm saying
mm.
that that's the situation that you had, but do you feel like that's a thing that you've experienced? For me, I feel like that's something I've experienced with, especially people newer to the space. They're so enthusiastic that they're just like projecting.
Mm. Yeah, look, it's definitely
And
something
it
I've
makes,
experienced.
because I also like, and then when people ask where are the men in this space, well, they're just
Mm,
like, for a man to be vulnerable in that space and then to be told like, yeah, like, you need to do this better and you're pointing out all their flaws, it's pushing them into their feminine and like the women are like making them feel small ones. Like, well, uh, you know, if you want to get, I'm trying to think of the word, like go to the start of time, if man wants to
mm.
procreate, he needs to be strong and stable and to show a woman that he's, can protect her. But when a
Yeah,
woman's
yeah.
beating a man down, he's not going to feel that way. Uh,
Mm.
yeah, So why would they step
Yeah,
into a space and be openly vulnerable if they're going to be judged for it?
yeah. I think the opposite side to that is like men have definitely chosen vulnerability, and look, I think there's two sides to that coin where people use the spiritual world and spiritual community as a way to spiritually bypass their own healing, and to maybe seem
Mm,
more healed than they really are. Both men and women are culprits of that. I know there was a stage where I felt, like there's a stage that you go through in anyone's healing process where you begin to over intellectualize everything that helps you sort of feel like, oh, I understand why I do this. And, this traumatic experience, led me to being like this. And, like we all do it. You just need to like get to a point and think like, hang on, that's my brain trying to intellectualize that experience so that I feel like I have an understanding of it. Um,
mm, trying to
and
get the control.
uh, yeah, it's a fickle friend, dude. It really like it's just one of those ways that your mind plays tricks on you, to make you feel reassured, which is not always a bad thing. But when it comes to, healing and I guess women particularly wanting a more healed man, I don't see anything wrong with it. I think if there was like a refocus on how they were showing up in their current world, both men and women taking that approach would quite often than not be able to find a middle ground a lot easier and a lot more smoothly.
Mm,
Yeah, meeting each situation with understanding, empathy, and a willingness to help in a sense, instead of like, I'm all for like understanding and like knowing your worth. That's a huge thing, but like knowing your worth shouldn't be at the detriment to someone else's worth either. I don't think anyone is above anyone. And there's never really a right person either. Just to go even deeper on that subject, there's never a right person. There's, there's a right person for you right now, and then there's lessons, and there's just, I think how we show up in the world really dictates where our relationships can go, the length of them, the willingness we have to stretch and change in all of those experiences that those relationships can bring us. But yeah, simply just saying like, where are all the men? Like, we're there. We really are. You're just maybe stuck in a trauma response, maybe still attracting the same men that you've always attracted, whatever that may be.
Yeah, it's like, where are the men? Like, where are you? In the sense that like you're looking for men in a spiritual community, but like if you're looking for a strong spiritual man, are you gonna find him at a fucking yoga studio? Are you gonna find like, is that really what you want, or do you just want another friend? Like, who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. I think
yeah.
like there's a hope that,
It's
we
an
put
interesting
ourselves
one,
out there
but
and that
I love it.
we meet who we're meant to meet in,
Yeah, I want to hear
the
more about
communities that
you
we put ourselves in.
and your
But whether
early
that
life.
actually
So
happens
obviously
is,
quite a few struggles there.
I guess,
In,
I suppose it's how
personally,
open you are to
family,
experiencing
and you said like that impacted how
I think I've lost
you
you
then
again.
became a man. I'd love to hear like if you've got any stories that you can remember as a child that like stuck with you and they were pivotal towards you going forward in life. Obviously, we all have experiences in our lives, in our childhood, that stick with us, that are traumatic, and they affect how we go through day-to-day life. There's a fork in the road and it'll force you down a certain path, or you act a certain way every time when you think you're going to have that experience again. Is there anything that's stuck with you in your mind that has forced you to change the way you think about anything, or changes the way you show up?
There has. I think in the beginning, when I started to feel like it was safe to be every part of me, it was difficult. But in my previous relationship, I was offered enough of a chance to show all parts of me, even if it only came out in small parts, because I was still filled with shame and still filled with guilt and all of those things. I think like that gave me a glimpse of what it was like to have a safe space held for me, even though conscious me now believes that it was, I think like their heart was in the right place, but it wasn't for the right reasons. And, I wholeheartedly wasn't in the right place to be able to be held, or to be able to take that next step of my evolution in just really not caring about the outcomes of the situations I was in. So, and what I mean by that is that if you know that you have operated and gone about life well within your masculine, well within your moral compass, then you don't have anything to worry about. You don't have to worry about people's reactions to things. You've kept yourself in check throughout every part of whatever process or experience that you're in, and just being okay with whatever the outcome is. I think there's massive power in that. Being so in your truth and so in, having your own back that, whatever happens, happens, and you just let go of, even if you think it's going to go completely a different way, and it's just like, yeah, I'm sure it'll be a mind blowing experience, but yeah, just being okay with whatever happens is life changing.
Yeah.
Being okay with losing, being okay with not getting the outcome you want, being surprised by whatever happens.
Yeah, I think standing in your truth, knowing not everything you do is going to please everyone, but it's way worse to live your life knowing that you haven't lived in your truth, and that that's going to let yourself down more. You have to have acted with integrity for yourself. That's going to sit with you all the time, rather than you've acted in full integrity with yourself and it's let someone else down. You will get over that because you don't have to live with that.
Yeah, I think like there's yeah, I completely agree. That sort of just like bringing that up is sort of reminded me of the experience we had with one of our old friends where they felt like they were acting in integrity. And whilst they might have been, I think integrity can be used as a mask. And, I guess that's my experience, maybe from that experience itself. It's my reaction to that. But I think, yeah, there is ultimate power in being in your truth. There's ultimate power in having empathy for however any situation that you're in ends up, whether it's for yourself or for the other person. I'm kind of like going off track, but there's a deeper sense of knowing. I think I'd like to use like moral compass, like being well within your moral compass as a better understanding for like being okay. Like yeah, there's so many depths to this like healing journey and spiritual world that just make everything seem like you should question everything. But yeah, I kind of went off on a tangent there, but like there was
No,
it
going
just
off
reminded me of it.
that being part. It's fine to act within your integrity to your values and your beliefs. And what I always like, if you can live with that, that's cool. And but you're not going to make everyone happy. You might not
Yeah, I
always be,
suppose, yeah.
your values don't align with everyone's, right? So as long as a person is still to this day going, I was right, and they more power to you if your values align and they don't align with someone else's, they're not going to be happy. But if you know you've lived within your integrity and you can be at peace with that decision, then that's fine. But not everyone's going to be happy with it. And it's, there's integrity and there's ego. If you can like down the track, realize that you're wrong and you still say, no, but I acted with integrity, then that's ego. But if you can, you're wrong, like where the spiritual work is, because you go, yeah, that was my beliefs then. Come to think of it, I was wrong and I was being a dick. Then that's where the real masculine man can still go, hey, I apologize. I was wrong. Yeah.
I suppose that's been like a huge learning curve for me too, is being able to be strong enough to admit where I've gone wrong and being able to own my shit and own who I am, own the things that I've done. And given the opportunity with the people that I have in my life now, I think about when I've told them about, the things that I've done in the past or the person that I was in the past. My fiance right now is a perfect example of that, telling her about who I once was and who I've been and where I've been and what I've done, all those sort of things. And she just cannot see it, cannot believe some of the things that I've told her. And she's just like, I just don't see that in you. And, not from a place of not wanting to. I think that's just a testament of how I show up in the world now that, I'm just like, I just can't see that as you. Like, she's utterly surprised that that's, that's the scenario that I'm giving you, which is amazing. Like, how good that, we can talk about, you hear about movie stars and that sort of stuff talking about, their childhoods and their adult lives, and Charlie Sheen's probably a perfect example of that being most recent. But like, how good is this human experience that we just get to do a complete overhaul of everything that we once were and just become the best version that we can be, and in complete awe of that whole experience.
Yeah. I want to dive into that experience as well, because all the experiences we have lead to where we are now, right? Where that's the joy of the life we have. Every moment, every person you walk past in the street creates who you are now. And you mentioned earlier, let's hope it's in the recording, that you were carrying shame for a while, which is so common with a lot of men that will be listening to this. And I really want to, get into the weeds of it all, because as the name of the podcast, I think you should hear this. I think that a lot of people go through life thinking that it's just them, that their experience, and we experience it all the time with men over matter. And I'm getting the same up. Like I had a conversation with a guy on Saturday night who's moved on. Yeah. And I was in my head, I'm having this conversation with him. He doesn't know that I do men over matter or any of this sort of stuff. We've just met. He's a mutual friend, someone. And he's telling me this story, and he's ashamed to tell me about it, right? So if he hears this, he doesn't get mad. I'm not going to use any names, but turns out his partner slept with a friend, like one of his friends, Sucks. Horrible. But unfortunately, very common. So I think there's so much power in sharing a story, because someone will be relating to it and going, fuck, me too. So I'd love to hear more your childhood. You don't have to go any further than you're comfortable with, but I feel like there's so much people hearing it. Other people, there's power in sharing your experience. So being in the area that we grew up, myself, Carrum Downs, spent a lot of time in Frankston, you're in Noble Park. Drugs are very common, whether that's in the home, whether that's a neighbor, whether that's school, whether that's friends. So I'd love to know what it was like being a kid, experiencing that growing up, and having to live with someone like that, or people like that, and witnessing it, and how does that affect a child seeing that sort of stuff?
So it actually stems back a lot further than that for me. I grew up in Brisbane, and shame was modeled to me from a very age. Yeah, I guess the first area that I feel like shame was ever modeled for me was that my neighbor at the time, who was a little bit older than me, was basically sexually abusing me. She was an older girl, and I didn't know what I was doing or anything like that. I don't really feel like I clicked on to what those experiences were. There was a time in my life where I didn't really think about them. So I was about 6 or 7, and I didn't really think about them until I was about 13 or 14, maybe even 12, when I started to hit puberty and all that sort of stuff. And I remember us being caught once throughout one of those experiences by her brothers, and I remember looking at her and there being, a face of surprise and shame, and her playing it off that, we were playing stacks on or something like that. And I remember that face, like I'll never forget that. Her reaction was like, and then like just, emotional level really dropped. And I feel like it's been mirrored in the way that my mum would have really difficult conversations with my brothers around their drug addictions, and how they were showing up in the family unit. And then their actions, yeah, look, I'm kind of fighting between like whether I should share this, but it's a part of my experience. So my oldest brother, countless times would steal all the stuff from our house and sell them to use drugs, to get onto drugs. And I remember him coming back into the family unit after those experiences, and him just basically having his head in his hands, not knowing what to do with life. I remember my stepdad at the time, not my stepdad now, not my beautiful dad now, but my stepdad at the time, being caught cheating on my mum. Me, my sister and I caught him cheating on my mum. And I remember the shame he felt at the time, or at least how it appeared to me, taking it as far as, him leaving the house, me chasing after him and saying, Dad, don't leave, blah, blah, blah. And him just basically telling me that he wasn't my dad, which is really tough. I was none the wiser. I didn't know that I had a different dad to my sister and my other brothers, but that was the way that I found out. And, thinking about it now, like it's a pretty fucked up experience. And so those experiences and those situations where shame was modeled to me really, I guess, set a precedent for how I showed up in my teenage and adult years. Like shame was just something like you felt when you fucked up. Shame was almost normal. Fucking up was normalized. As much as, like my mum was a saint, my mum was a good person. She did everything she could to be the best role model and best carer for all of us. Yeah, I think there's a power and there's a need for everyone to do some sort of healing to move out of that shame space turned me into a drug addict. Shame kept me lying, kept me cheating on people, kept me feeling unworthy of basically any friendship or relationship that I had in my life. Yeah, I can't. I feel like I can't really speak on what it feels to feel shame anymore. It's a distant memory for me now. But I remember the repetitive cycles that it kept me in. And it's not just the shame you feel in your experience, but it's the shame you keep perpetuating onto yourself. It's through self-talk, I was bullied all my life because I was overweight. So, I kept staying overweight, kept myself in that shame cycle. Oh, you're just a fat fuck. It's what you are. Nobody deserves you. Oh, sorry, you don't deserve anyone. Yeah, it's a deeply rooted seed that can take a really long time to be removed, and it's not throughout hard work.
Yeah. I love that you brought up the food thing, and how a nervous system gets addicted to what it knows. And it's so often played out with trauma, right? The experience you have, for some reason, we repeat it. And through my experience with talking to people with sexual abuse, it shows up in you, like sexual tendencies, you hyperactive in that area.
Yeah.
But I've never heard of it first. There's always jokes online when a female teacher gets done for sleepless shoots. Everyone's like, oh, that'd be fucking awesome. I'd love to hear it from your experience and how that shows up.
I think it definitely hypersexualized me. It definitely made me a lot more curious about anything sexual way, way earlier than, anyone ever should. Like I was 6 or 7, no kid should ever be thinking about sex and should ever be thinking about relief, sexual relief. You shouldn't have built up sexual tension, or at least known. You shouldn't be able to understand it. I don't think, I feel like I had my innocence taken away from me with those experiences.
Mm.
And it essentially I feel like part of it turned me into a bit of a deviant through my teen years and through my adult life. I felt like sex was the only way that I could connect or that I was worthy of women. I felt like being good in bed was a measure of my worth.
Do you think it's a way to get your power back, considering it's a woman who took it? That's the first time, that I was asking about taking your power back. Because I remember watching a documentary about Gene Simmons, same thing happened to him, and then he was like, don't worry, he's for sleeping with lots of women. It was like it's your way of getting your power back. And like you said, it's how you, well, that's the first time you got positive female attention from another woman. So it's like, that's the reward system. So that's like your nervous system's like, well, that's how I get reward. So I got to do that more. So that will feel true for you.
Yeah, it's I think there was, yeah, definitely there's definitely an aspect of that. I think mine was probably a little bit more complicated than that. Having a lower self-worth due to how I looked, being overweight. I felt that, in this modern world, being an overweight person isn't seen as normal. It's not knowing now what I know, and how, I guess, how I am now. I know being overweight isn't healthy, and to the, how we want to say, how Hollywood has shaped what health actually looks like isn't really far from it. You could be, without going on too much of a tangent, you could be, really skinny and still very unhealthy. But my appearance made me feel like I wasn't worthy of women because, people shame fat people, people bully fat people. I was bullied my whole life for it. And it's I didn't think I was any more worthy of a woman than I was worthy of people's nasty words to me. So there was an added bonus, an added dopamine hit for me being able to, get with a girl, get her number, have her say she was attracted to me. Yeah, I feel like it was like such a lost part of my life, to be honest. I think about it now and it's just like, fuck, dude, like I wish like this version of me there was there for him now. You know, I needed
Mm.
this version of me there to tell me that I don't need all that sort of shit. I don't need that gratification. I don't need that dopamine
Do you
hit.
think you would have listened?
With consistent reinforcement, maybe, you know, with better role models around me, maybe with having the tools of being able to talk about what the fuck was going on in my head, maybe, you know, all
Mm.
contributing factors.
Yeah.
I don't think it was just one thing that I needed. It never is.
Nah, for sure. Yeah, that's what we're getting at. Having that at home, if someone's happy and they don't have to get a woman to show it, like, you know, in high school, it's all about status and bragging rights and who's getting with the hottest chick. So if that's all you're seeing, of course, that's what you think you need to do, right? And
Yeah, yeah.
if you are seeing an unhappy or unstable family at home, then you're like, well, maybe I do need to do what these other guys doing because you don't know what's going on at their home. So you're just like, well, these kids seem like they've got it all figured out. Maybe they
Mm.
are right. Yeah.
The thing about people who seem like they've all got it figured out, it's usually bullshit. Like, there's very few people in this world that have it all figured out.
Mm.
Yeah, I think like my version of having it figured out now wouldn't be my version of having it figured out when I was 25 or when I was 18 or 21 or even 30. You know, me feeling like I had it figured out at 30 felt fucking sick. Like being 30, like turning 30 felt like, I think I remember telling you, like it changed my life. It felt like
Mm.
my whole life just started again. But being where I am now, I feel like I've got a new start to this journey as well, a new start to this part of my life. And yeah, goes back to like being okay with change and like just moving with it anyway, because the better version of you is around the corner if you're willing to put in the work.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like, you know, you said it at 18, 20, 25, 30, it'd probably be the same at 40 as well, right? I think
Yeah, yeah.
we're constantly changing and evolving, and if we don't, we stagnate, then, you know, we're purpose-driven people. We need to have something to move towards, whether that's uh, with work, with family, with whatever. I know for me, if I'm sitting still for too long, I'm like, what the fuck am I doing with my life? So, uh, yeah, I think we constantly need to be evolving in our goals and things change.
Yeah.
So,
Um, to I guess like finish what you were saying, I feel like I'm kind of shit at answering these questions because I tend to go on tangents, but there is truth in what I'm trying to say. That I want to go back to the question I was
I
recording.
can't hear you now. I've lost you. It was like a
Is
little mumble. That was about it.
that better?
Try again. Yeah, sounded better. Yeah, go.
Yeah, I'm just making sure that that's working. So
Yep,
it says
got
Rick.
ya.
It says Rick. Okay, awesome. All right. So moving out of shame. It took deep work, and yeah, I agree that feeling the same as what Ben Simmons was talking about, the gratification of getting with a woman. There's, I think, a point where you get the opportunity to continue to be open to what the next part of your journey is, and where you are given opportunities to let go of whatever that shame is holding on you. I think that's the ultimate meaning of letting go, is you get to choose when things no longer have power over you.
Love it.
Yeah.
Why do you think we recreate traumatic experiences and habits from our childhood as in ourselves in adults or teenagers?
So when it feels like there's a sense of normalcy to whatever our experience is, recreating that seems like the only normal thing to do. And whether that's normal to us, what's normal to us isn't normal to other people, but what feels normal in our nervous systems is just something that I feel like it just happens, like all the things that happened throughout my teenage years and 20s just felt like a natural progression. It didn't feel like I was recreating anything. It didn't feel like it was abnormal, even though at a deeper level, so much of me knew that it wasn't normal. You know, we talk about Hollywood and all that sort of stuff, modeling what normalcy is and what, you know, happiness is and what sadness is. Like, there are models of happiness too. You know, you see people married for 50, 60, 70 years, all that sort of stuff. Like, we do have normalcy and what happiness is modeled for us. But when you experience trauma, you know, on deeper levels, recreating it becomes our normal. I think you're frozen again.
What were we talking about?
We were talking about, why do you think we recreate our experiences as a teenager and in our 20s, the things that happened to us when we were a kid?
Or through life, if you don't do the work, it'll
Yeah,
continue to
yeah.
happen. Yeah.
Yeah, I think like there's, I know I could go on about it like a long-winded answer, but like when whatever your normal is modeled to you as a child is the normal you recreate for yourself without doing inner work.
Mm.
You know, like, and that's all models, that's relationships, that's ethic, that's morals, that's, you know, self-worth. However, anything that is really meaningful in life is modeled for you as a young person throughout your experiences is something that you will keep creating unless you educate yourself from within and external as well,
Mm.
and externally as well. I think being around, I don't want to say the right people, but the people who are going to be good and bad for your growth. You know, you need to be able to discern what's for you and what isn't, and that only happens through trial and error. So,
Mm.
yeah, I think that's why we do it, but we also get the opportunity to change that narrative too. We get to change and evolve like constantly. You know, feel like we've like rotated back to that a fair bit. That seems to be like a really main theme that's showing up. You know, we've both gone through some huge transitional phases in our lives. And it all comes down to, you know, choice and experience.
Mm. Yeah, I think the lesson will keep presenting itself until you
Mm,
learn it. The most clear one for me is relationships. And like, you know, women's like, why can't I never find a good guy? It's like, because you keep getting the same one because you fucking don't learn. Like,
mm,
you know, it's, you may not be conscious of it, but you're actually calling in this person every fucking time.
mm.
And until you become conscious of it and then actively choose to do something about it, because that's the other thing. How many people are like, oh, I know I shouldn't, but, and they do it anyway. And it's like, well,
Yeah,
keep fucking happening.
yeah. Yeah, like thinking about that and like calling in, you know, the same people, like I feel like I've had a different experience. Like I've called in similar people, but not the same. I want to
Mm.
actually, like knowing you, like I feel like well enough right now. Like what do you think is the wall that you're being met with in relationship for you? Obviously, you know, there's,
With finding someone or,
yeah, I think obviously like you've had your own goals and all that sort of stuff that have been, you know, like your celibacy and all that sort of stuff, which has been like power off to you has been like really
mm.
important to you, which I really want to show my appreciation and respect for you for going out throughout that process. But what do you feel like, you know, maybe is the wall that you might be meeting now, knowing that, you know, you're open to it if it's there or if the
Mm.
opportunity arises?
Well, walls for me in terms of meeting my person space at the moment, honestly. I don't have, I don't really say I don't have, but I'm not prioritizing time to allow in the right person at the moment. It wouldn't be fair of me to actually date someone right now. It wouldn't be fair for me to date someone right now because I'm not willing to give up the things I'm doing that I believe the right person for me deserves time for. So, like having this conversation now, if I was with a partner, I would want them to be with me. And that wouldn't be fair if they were lying in my bed while we're having this chat.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
I'm at footy 2 nights a week. And then I'm doing coaching with a kid 1 night a week, which I could have time later. But then I've got gym. I'm trying to get a Queensland State League contract. So, you know, I'm going to be moving to another state and then back to this state. what kind of stability is that providing for a woman right now? So I think the space, and if we had a call last night, I'm doing multiple things at once. I'm already pouring out of my own cup. It wouldn't be fair of me to try and pour into someone else, because one, it might make me resent them, and I wouldn't be giving them my full self, which wouldn't be. I want to give everything, right? So, and to get closer to the question that you are really asking, I keep attracting women that are more in their masculine, I feel. One, because of the spaces we're around, and women have poor reference of what a good man is, and I believe I'm a good man. And so they've been forced to be in their masculine because they've had to protect themselves. So being around them and showing them what a safe man is, that automatically thinks, I want to be around that person. This is my belief anyway. So of course they would feel comfortable, feel safe with me, but that's not what I'm attracted to. But I also feel like I'm providing a safe space, but I'm also not like outgoing and actually going and getting the girl. So, to attract a feminine woman, you need to be the masculine man and going and getting her, which I'm not actively seeking. So of course I'm not calling in a feminine woman because I'm not going and getting her. Like the only woman space for at the moment would be the one that's coming to me. Simple math, really, for me.
Can I bring up the irony of what you've just said, in that, women feel like they keep attracting these unhealed men, whereas you keep attracting these unhealed women that, not, I think unhealed might be the wrong word, are these women that want the healthy masculine, but keep calling in, like the one that they always keep calling in, the people that they always keep calling in. Yeah. Maybe that's a little bit more interesting to me than it is to you. Like, I feel like there's an aspect of that, like, yeah, I wonder how that's going to play out when you feel like you want to invest more time in there being a possibility of a relationship with someone. And I really hope that that works out for you, because I know you have a lot to offer as a man. And I know that when you speak from your heart and you speak from, I guess, like the purest version of you, that any woman would be lucky to have you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, I hope she's there. And also, like, the place I'm in at the moment, I'm not finding her. Like, I'm out with footy people all the time, drinking and getting on it, and I'm definitely not finding a woman aligned with my values here.
Yeah.
So
You never know. You never know.
I mean, I'm here, so that means there's got to be an equal, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, just haven't found her. We'll see. Yeah, I would say it's environmental and time. I'm not in a rush. Like, I feel healthy. I was talking to a woman today at the bank. She just had her first kid and she's 40, or her kid's a year old. Like,
yeah, wow.
Not that I'm planning on waiting that long, but
dude, if that's when it happens, like, I'm 35 next year, and I thought I would have kids 10 years ago. I feel like a much older version of the dad that I wanted to be when I was younger. And I think about the energy levels and stuff that I have now. And then I think about how impatient I was when I was younger, and how incapable of being a father I would have been then. Whereas now I have the space, the knowledge, for the most part, the patience. I still feel like parts of me are a little impatient, and maybe a little bit impatient for a child. But yeah, like, I'm gonna have to fucking do it. I love my son, and
you get to do it.
yeah, exactly. I get to do it. And, I think, like, me saying I have to do it, I know my conscious me knows that I'm excited about every part of this process. Like, I'm going home on Saturday from Tassie, and it's, Raina's hen's party that day. I'm getting off a boat that is more likely going to make me seasick, and jumping straight into looking after my son for the next 24 hours because it's Raina's hens. And would not change that for the world because I get to smother him with my love. FaceTime just isn't enough for the connection I want to have with him. But, you know, being away for work is allowing me to provide for my family.
Yeah, love it.
Mm,
Let's get into that.
yeah.
Like, yeah, I know about it through speaking to you, but the love even hearing you then express your excitement about being a dad and what's
Mm,
it like having that opportunity, and why is it so important to you to be a present father?
mm,
And like, you know, speaking to all the people out there that didn't have one at home or a positive male role model at home, like why? What's so important about it to you? And what are things that you felt like you missed out on as a kid? Like, did you feel resentment towards that?
mm. I don't feel resentment for it. I am glad that that opportunity and that experience was provided to me because now, you know, I, being in the position I am now, being a dad, you know, I get to relish every part of the experience that I know I would have enjoyed. You know, and what I know I would have needed. Um, And being a dad is like, you know, it's the fucking best thing in the world, bro. Like, you know, I get to go home regardless of how hard my day is and just am in constant awe of my son and my partner. I look at my phone, I catch myself looking at my phone, not to check the time, but because I've got his beautiful smiling face as my lock screen. And like, ah, man, like I don't, the thing about my experience as a kid is like, I think about them like, how the fuck did that dude not want to be around me? Like, how the fuck did that, you know, people bring children into the world without a second thought thinking that they'll just roll with it, which is, you know, quite often what parenting is. But like, I don't know, there's a part of me that's just like, you didn't really think that through, you know? And going a little bit deeper, like I've had previous partners of mine and sexual partners even have abortions. Something that I'm not proud of. I was quite careless throughout my teens and my 20s, you know. And, you know, even talking about it's really difficult because it's something, you know, parts of me hold shame for still. But, you know, there's a reason why. And, you know, that reason is that now I'm in a much better place to be able to hold myself and hold my family instead of being so scared of being a dad, you know, so scared of every part of this process. And it is fucking scary. Finding out your missus is pregnant is fucking scary. Going through with, you know, the decision, like you're both like, are we really going to do this? Like, you know, like your body almost goes into shock. But then once that decision was made, and I think being in the relationship that I am and that I was at the time, was just like, it made sense. You know, when
Mm.
you know, you know. Um, and yeah, like I started a new job 2.5 months ago, getting out of pest control, which I've been in for 7 years, worked for a, you know, big company who really looked after me. And the job that I'm in now, I did 10 years ago. And I've really been given an opportunity to just allow Raina to stay at home. You know, not to be the stay at home mum, but to be the caregiver that children really need. And I understand that, you know, not everybody's in the position to be able to have the mum at home, whether they're career driven or they just don't have enough money rolling in with it on a single income. I feel grateful that I'm in a position to be able to provide for my family in that way, and that Raina, you know, wants to live our life that way. She wants to be at home looking after Arlo and caring for him. And, you know, yeah, I'm just in awe of every part of this experience that my life is now, being a dad and being in the relationship that I'm in. Lost you again. You're
That
muted
was a
again. There we go.
got it. That didn't take too long. But anyway, yes, you feel like Raina.
I feel like Raina, um, no, like maybe I said, like I'm grateful that Raina wants to be at home and be the caregiver to Arlo, which is um, you know, it makes me want to work harder for them. You know, it makes me want to be more present for them. You know, really value my time at home and at work. making sure that I'm making the most of, hence me being away. I get paid more to be away. The more I get paid, the easier our life is, the more we can still get ahead. And that means Raina can stay off work for longer. All of those things, like I feel like there's this natural progression of our relationship that continues to work towards however this is going to work out for us. And that just means that we're getting married in 4 weeks, which is something that's like, mind blowing to me. I never thought that I would get married.
Mm.
Marriage became, not became, marriage was like, it's just another form of instability for me. Like, there's, what is it, 50% of people who are married end up getting divorced. But I think everyone enters marriage with a good intention and not a whole lot of healing done. I'm glad that I put in the work to do that. And I'm glad that I have someone that is willing to do the same. Raina constantly challenges herself, and motherhood has been the ultimate challenge for her. I've watched this sweet, curious person step into the most powerful position that a woman can ever be in. And that is like, man, it is like watching her go through that, every part of that experience not only deepened my appreciation for women, there was this aspect of like guilt for ever treating any woman how I did when I was younger. And then a full circle moment of like, okay, that doesn't really matter. What I do with this now does. How I show up in the world now makes a difference.
Mm.
How I treat this woman, how I care for this woman, the safe space that I create for this woman matters. Don't get stuck in whatever that was. The present is a gift, and Raina and Arlo are just gifts that keep on giving. It's fucked, dude. Like I honestly, like the shit that people say, and I'm going on for a little tangent, that the shit that people say to you, oh, you'll understand when you have your own kids, and none of that ever, I think I've mentioned this to you before, none of that ever amounts to the actual feeling. None of that
Mm.
ever, like, no words are powerful enough for you to understand just how incredibly intense the feeling of becoming a parent is. There is this primal aspect to it. You just like, you feel like anger, passion, love, just everything is so raw that you're just like, I would fucking kill anyone that fucks with you, and that I would like, I love you so much. I want to squeeze you so your head pops off. And I just want to kiss you all over because you just need to feel the amount of love that I have pouring out of me. And like, just all these things at once, like you're just bombarded with it. And it's like,
Mm.
feels like your head's going to explode. It's insane.
Mm.
So that's my take on that, what that experience has been for me.
Yeah, definitely sounds like a roller coaster.
Yeah.
A word that stuck out to me, which I didn't expect you to hear, was anger.
Mm.
Why?
Mm.
Why anger?
I think anger comes from like how my real dad, when questioned, didn't admit to his wife at the time that he knew I was his son. Anger from my stepdad telling me that he wasn't my dad when I was 7 years old, when I was too young to comprehend that. Anger to anyone that treats children like shit. Any anger towards anyone who brings a child into the world without a conscious thought of where they're at and how they're going to do it. Yeah. Anger to people who don't care enough, because children are just the purest form of everything that is beautiful about this world.
Mm.
Everything that is sacred. Women are sacred, but, women start off as children too, and children need to be protected at all costs. Not protected
Mm.
or like hidden from danger, but they need to be protected. Their souls, every part of them needs to be protected, their innocence.
For
And I
sure.
know that because I had that taken away from me.
For
Yeah.
sure. I've got a couple questions off that. The first one is your birth father. So he like denied it to his wife. That would bring up that. I've got a lot of questions, but how, why, like.
So, like, quick backstory. My mum somehow was still in contact with my real dad's brother's ex-wife. She just, knew who she was. Obviously, my mum was with my real dad for 8 years, I believe. They were married. And so I found his wife through, I suppose, like my auntie-in-law kind of thing on Twitter. Didn't have a Twitter account, but I signed up for Twitter. Found out she was a famous makeup artist over in WA, and yeah, messaged her and was like, I'm going to do this. Like, my real dad, has not been a part of my life at all. I know how he treated my mum. He also cheated on my mum. Also left me when I was born. Didn't want me, sort of felt discarded by him, but I felt like I was in a position, I think I was about 26 or 7, in a pretty good place in my life. And yeah, I was just like, I'm going to face this fear. I'm going to speak to this person because I know that I'm worthy of the love that he didn't want to give me. And so I brought it up and told her, I'm actually your husband's son. And she said, like, she didn't really know about me or anything like that. Sent her a photo because I have photos of him from my mum's wedding. And back then you can't tell, but I used to have thick black hair, and he has black hair and an infectious smile like me, apparently, what my mum always tells me. So I called them, sent the photos over, and he knew exactly what I was calling him out on. He just hadn't told his wife about it. He just hadn't told his wife about me. And yeah, just kind of, he even had the balls to ask me if I was doing okay for money because he's well off. And I said, mate, like, I'm fine for money. I don't need your money. Like, that's not why I'm calling you. I'm calling you because you're my dad. Those are the words I actually said. Yeah, he just said, oh, I always just thought you were Jeff's, which is my sister's real dad. And I said, like, I don't know how you think that. I'm the only person in my family who's 6 foot tall, has black hair, when all of my other family are fair skinned, light brown hair, blue eyes. Like, I don't, it just made no sense. But, it just obviously just clicked to me that he just didn't tell his wife about me, and kind of just wanted to play it off and go about his life however he was, which just goes to show like where he was at in life. And yeah, I mean, I could either hold hate towards him or hold a grudge, but just like, what's the point? I think like I felt worse before I started to feel better.
Or like you got to close
It
a
was
chapter
really
or
difficult to hear
closure or
that.
something.
I felt discarded again. I felt rejected. But, however I feel now about it is, yeah, like, I feel better for it. It is what it is, man. Like, I'm not going to hold on to what that conversation was for me. Like, I'm just, yeah, whatever. Just another thing, really. Like, um, yeah, just move on from it.
Got ya. All right, we'll wrap it up. I
Yeah.
want to, let's, that's such a big thing to do is seek out your birth parent. Didn't go as planned, but do you at least feel closure in going, all right, I don't have to worry about this bloke anymore. Let's move on with my life. Like, what is that like?
Yeah, I think, like, I just realized, like, I didn't need him. I didn't need, I didn't really, yeah, I didn't really need him. I didn't really need any of the negative shit that got me to where I already was, because I feel like with the people in my life, I had already began to and was already in the creation of who I'm meant to be. There was no space for him in my life anyway. I was willing to open space up for him and to open my heart up to him, but was quickly closed off because of his actions. And, like, would it have really made a difference? Like, I feel like I have a loving and doting stepdad already who treats my mum really well. And yeah, I love him. He's been in my life for 25 years now. Like, I don't need someone who isn't going to at least acknowledge my existence by mentioning it, to his wife, who he's meant to be loving and honest with. it just shows his emotional state and his emotional awareness, which is fine. He's just on his own journey, and maybe one day he'll change his mind. But by then it's too late, man. I don't need you. I'm already a great dad without you.
Love it.
Just another like thing that was modeled to me without actually something I had to learn myself. My stepdad showed me what being, or had really good glimpses of what being a good parent was, and yeah.
Fuck yeah. I have one more
Yeah.
question on the topic.
Yeah.
And you mentioned abortion and
Yeah.
how having a kid, what made you think, how the fuck could you not want me? And then also like, the feelings around having been with people that have had them themselves, like, and also how people can be so quick to have kids without a second thought and they haven't really made a plan. So I can see arguments from what you've said anti-abortion, because like how the fuck could you kill a kid? But then also like why are people so quick to have a kid without thinking about it, and then you're setting up for that kid for a shit life. So where do you sit on that now?
Look, I'm not going to say that I am anti-abortion. I am pro-choice. I am pro being a sensible, responsible adult. And if you or your partner don't have the space, time, or love to be able to bring a child into the world, let alone emotional awareness, be smarter next time. I think about who I was when I was younger, and I'm glad that I was honest enough with myself and those people at the time, whether they were my partner or not, to fully understand that I wasn't capable of being a father at that time. And I think like deep down, for the most part, they knew that they weren't capable of being a parent at the same time either. And, whether I was in relationship with them or not, yeah, I think, yeah, like it's difficult, but sometimes we have to make difficult choices for the greater good of each other's lives, because not only would be bringing a child into a world where there's either no love or like not enough love, not enough self-awareness or emotional awareness, but we would be doing ourselves a disservice too. I take my hat off to people who bring kids into the world when they're still kids. I know people who have done it, they've made great parents, but I also know people who haven't. And yeah, there's just like some people are built for it and some aren't, man. Like it's, there's no blueprint to when you can and when you should bring a child into the world. I think ultimately why I am pro-choice is that it has to be a conscious decision. Whether that's with the awareness that you have at that time. And if it's to not bring a child into the world, then you have to fully respect someone's decision.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm in a similar boat. I think you just need to think real hard every time. I mean, every time you're about to have sex and you're not having it protected, are you willing to have a kid? No.
It's important, man.
Do
Yeah,
something about it. Yeah. There's obviously the sexual abuse, which is like very rare. It's like 3%. So there's definitely the argument for that. You can't blanket make it illegal, but I just think people need to take more ownership for their actions and think before you act, because they have consequences. And for me,
yeah,
and I just don't think that I could take a child out of the world. So I'm very conscious when doing that stuff. But yeah, for me, I couldn't do it. If I get a woman pregnant, I'm going to see it through and have a kid.
Yeah. Yeah. And look,
so I picked the right one.
Yeah. Look, I get that. And I don't think like it's well intentioned for, most people to say that they couldn't think of that. But until you're put in the situation, like there could be something that the other person says to you that fills you with doubt, or there could be something that comes up, whether it's past, present, that could come up and be like, and put you in a freeze response where you're not quite ready for that experience. You just don't know until you're put in it. Like anything, but it's one of those things, man. Like that's something that I'm gonna have to live with for the rest of my life. And so are those partners of mine. And yeah, definitely something I'm not proud of because it's like at the end of the day, it is taking a life. Um, but that's just a part of my journey that, I have to live with that. People can judge me for it. I've got to live with it. It's my life. It's my memory.
Yeah.
It's my choices that I have to live with at the end of the day. And a bigger part of me is proud of me for making those choices, knowing what I'm capable of now and not thinking about what could have been because hindsight is the thief of joy.
But I think it would be safe to wrap it up here before starting a new topic and us getting cut off because mine says unable to connect to studio. But let's definitely do a part 2 with better connection and we can talk about more positive things.
Yeah. I'd like to go over what you've actually got to. So if you get a chance to listen to it, by all means, go over what you've got. I'd love to talk about the positive impacts of, men over matter, of, whether it's Southside or just what all those things were, my experiences
for
too,
sure.
because there's definitely been some positives to it.
Yeah, there's so many we missed. So we need to, even if it's use this one, compile it, and then add the next one on, depending on time. Like how long it goes for. Maybe 2 parts will be a good thing, depending on how much we've got here. It might end up being 3 hours. So yeah. But anyway, thanks heaps for the patience and bearing with me, because mine's very thin at the moment.
That's all right. Everything that's worth it is worth being patient for.